Good afternoon, my ethical hacking student from University Malaysia Pahang. My name is Dr. Adewale Kayode Zakaria from University of Ilorin. I want to welcome you to this class. The course we are going to look at today is basically on network security. I will be considering network attacks. So we are going to look at some network attacks, and I want to welcome you all to this class, and I hope you're going to enjoy it. So our discussion will be based on the following. We're going to look at what is cyber attack. We're going to look at network security, and we look at network attacks. Also, we consider DOS versus DDoS attack. We're also going to look at differences between DOS and DDoS, and then we look at the purpose of DOS and DDoS. Why does attacker try to use them? Then we're also going to look at the types of DOS and DDoS, and we'll consider some preventive mechanisms against some of these network attacks, in which we will talk about the firewall. We're going to also discuss the IDS and then the IPS, and then we'll also talk about honeypot and penetration testing. So I hope it's going to be an enjoyable class for you. So let us kickstart the class. Before we move into what we call cyber attack, I would like us to first of all look at what is attack. Okay, before we say cyber attack, then we have to look at what is an attack. And according to international standard, International Organization for Standardization, which you know that ISO is one of the organizations that sets standard, they define an attack as an attempt to expose, alter, disable, destroy, steal, or gain unauthorized access to or make unauthorized use of an asset. So in this case, you will see that there are some characteristics that define an attack, and these have been put in color red, as you can see in the slide. And if you look at these characteristics, you will see something like expose, which means that attacker is trying to find vulnerabilities at all costs, trying to look for a way to expose, the system or a network in order to do something, which may include something like maybe the attacker want to alter, something on the system. For example, the attacker might want to disable something, for example, a port or a particular activity that is going on your network. Or even sometimes attacker might have an intention of destroying a particular, thing, like deleting your data, for example. If attacker gain access to your data, it is possible for attacker to run a command and delete part of your data. So these are some of the characteristics that constitute to what we call an attack. And if you look at it, we're saying that unauthorized use of an asset. So this asset in this case can be anything. And so when you look at a cyber attack, the definition, you see down here, it said cyber attack is any type of offensive compromise that target computer information systems. So you look at it now that we're now talking about computer information systems, which in this case is computer information system on its own is also an asset that we are considering here. So this kind of asset, okay, could be computer infrastructure. It could even be computer network. Maybe I have it in mind, to attack a computer network. Then that is the attacker's goal. It can also be the personal computer devices. Maybe a particular device that is attached on the network is what the attacker is interested in. So all these together are what we call cyber attack. And as you can see, you will notice that these computer information systems, the infrastructures, the computer networks, all these are a kind of asset that we are considering now when we talk about cyber attack. So, which means that cyber attacks are the kind of attacks that occur, with the use of computer or that involves computer information system or infrastructures. Okay, so let's look at the network security. But before we go into network security, we need to first of all consider what is a network, because you need to know what a network is before you can say that you want to secure it. And by this definition I have here, I said a network is two or more computers linked to share resources, which means that computers are linked together. And the purpose of this linkage is to share resources among themselves. So the resources that you can share on the network, varies. But before we consider these resources, we want to first of all look at the link, because we are talking of computers being linked together. So this link may be through wired, as you know. For example, your network cable, your Cat5 cable, for example, is the network cable which you can use to link computers together. Also, you can consider a wireless medium, okay, using something like radio wave, microwave, even satellite, to link these different systems together. So the link we are talking about here might involve, any of these media. Then when we talk about resources that are being shared on the network, these resources may include software, it may include even hardware. For example, the resources may be your web application. You are trying to protect it from being attacked by the hackers. Or it may be your file server, or even a printer, a hardware component of your computer that you are trying to secure. Sometimes it could be internet and a lot of other things that you can also secure the network. So this definition helps us to know that, or to see that computers are linked together, and the purpose of linkage is for resource sharing. And this, gives us a full definition of what we call a network. Now, what is network security? According to SANS Institute, SANS is one of the information security organizations in the United States. They define network security as the process of taking physical or software preventive measures to protect the underlying network infrastructure from unauthorized access, misuse, malfunctions, modifications, destructions, or improper disclosure. What we're trying to say here is that network security is the process of protecting your system, your network, your infrastructure from what? Unauthorized access, misuse, malfunction, modification, destruction, or improper disclosure. And if you look at the items in color red here, they simply means attacks characteristics. And by this, it means that we can define a network security as the process of securing our network or infrastructure against cyber attack. Okay, that is a simple definition we can give a network security. Okay, so summarily, as I have it down here, I said network security involves the protection of network infrastructure against cyber attack. So we can have that short definitions for the network security. And I believe that now you know what network security is and how you can define it. Okay. Let's move to network attacks. We have different types of network attacks. We have passive attacks. We have active attacks. The passive attacks simply they involve interceptions of data traveling through the network, which means that maybe a kind of peeping. The attacker is trying to peep, or there's something that attacker is trying to look at data that is traveling on the network. This kind of attack is not active; it is passive. Okay, and the second type of attack is active attack, which involve intruder initiating a command to disrupt the network's normal operation. So if a command is initiated by attacker, and this command, the goal is to disrupt, the normal process, you will notice that this is an active attack. It's a kind of active attack because the effect will be felt, straight away on the network, instantly on the network. So this is a kind of active attack. It's quite different from being peeping, trying to look at data while data is traveling, which perhaps even the owner of the data might not even know. Okay. But in the case of the active attack, the owner will know that something is wrong with me, or something is wrong with my network, or something has happened to my network, which makes it active in this case. Okay, we can also consider active attack as when intruder conduct reconnaissance or lateral movement to find or gain access to network infrastructure. Look at, for example, I am trying to perform a kind of, I want to hack your password. Okay, I'm trying to perform a brute force attack on your password. This kind of things, if I'm able to succeed, is an active attack. Okay, it's an active attack. So let's move on. As we have said that we have two types of attack, the passive attack and the active attacks. These are some of the attacks under passive attack. We have the wiretapping, which, according to our definition, when the attacker involved trying to look at, the data, peep through it while it's moving through, on the network. So wiretapping is an example of that. Okay, passive attack. Then we also have port scanning. Port scanning. You are trying to scan ports to see if there is any open port, something the attacker can explore. Okay, is also a kind of passive attack. Then we have also idle scan, and then traffic analysis, and even encryption. All these are examples of passive attack. Then the active attack include something like denial of service, okay, or distributed denial of service, which we call DDoS. So don't be confused. We're going to look at these two terms today, okay, in this class. We look at DOS and we look at DDoS as the table of content, the presentation outline as promised. Okay, so apart from this DOS or DDoS, we also have active attack like malware, malicious softwares like virus. Okay, we have different types of malware. So these kind of things, they constitute what we call active attack also. Then if it's dropping drive-by download or drive-by attack, which drive-by download is one of them. Okay, brute force attack. Okay, man in the middle, SQL injection, phishing, and then cross-site scripting. Okay, so because of time, we will consider only the denial of service, the DOS, and the distributed denial of service in this class. Okay, so let's move on. Now, the DOS versus DDoS. What do you mean by DOS? Okay, a DOS is a kind of cyber attack. We've defined cyber attack. So it's a kind of cyber attack where the attacker tries to make a machine or network resource unavailable to its users, the intended users. What we're trying to say here is that a service or network resource or resources, access to them have been denied, by the attacker. The attacker denies the legitimate users from using these resources or even a machine. So this is a kind of DOS attack when the service is being denied. Then it can also involve temporary or indefinite disruption of services on the host, connected to the network, which also deals with denial of service as well. Also, we can look at this: shut down a machine or network, making it inaccessible to its intended users. This also constitutes to what we call DOS, a denial of service. If a legitimate user wants to use the machine has been shut down by maybe perhaps a command that was initiated by the attacker. Okay. Also, we can look at this: deprive legitimate users access to the service or resource, which we have said before. So when legitimate access is being denied, then it constitutes what we call the DOS attack. So the DOS attack is typically being accomplished by flooding the targeted machine or resources with superfluous requests. So when there are superfluous requests from attackers, okay, that is flooding the targeted machine, and you should know that there is definitely what we call a DOS attack, being taking place. And the purpose of this, different things, flooding from coming from attackers, is to overload the system. I want to overload this system. I want to make sure this system is not able to respond to legitimate command. I want to make sure this system is shut down. I want to make sure this system is not able to, respond to legitimate requests by, legitimate users. I want to prevent them from accessing their legitimate files. All these are, activities that constitute what we call the DOS attack. And then one important thing you should know here is that we said DOS affected a single machine or network, which means that the DOS affected, a single machine or network. Take note of that. That is one of the, distinguished characteristics of DOS. Okay, then let's look at the DDoS. The DDoS is a type of DOS attack, that is the DOS attack, where multiple compromised systems are being used to target a single system, causing a DOS attack. Don't be confused. Let me try to explain this. Let's look at this diagram here. You notice that this is hacker, the attacker in this case. And the attacker is trying to gain access to this machine. Look at machine 4. This is the target machine. And this target machine, in order to reach this target machine, attacker has tried to, go through different systems and different networks. Look at this. This is one network here. This is another network here, and this is another network here. And then you see these three systems here that are being firstly accessed by the attackers. They are called zombies. They are called zombies computers, and they are being used to control, their network, the systems on their network, in order to respond to command and send, traffic, malicious traffic to the target users. So you can see that this kind of attack is not coming from just a single system or a single network, as in the case of DOS. So the DDoS attack involves, multiple compromised systems. Okay, as you can see, these are reflectors, and these reflectors want to serve a command, that is coming from the zombie, to the network. So if you try to block IP address of, say, for example, the IP address of this system, you are deceiving yourself, because this kind of attack is not only coming from this reflector, it is also coming from other reflectors, from even different networks. So this makes it difficult to, simply or easily block the DDoS attack. And who are the victims that are involved here? The victims are the targeted systems and all the systems that are maliciously controlled. As you can see, this target system is a victim. Even all the systems that have been maliciously controlled on the network have also become a victim. Okay, they have become victims, and so the attackers have manipulated them. Okay, so in this case, they have been used maliciously. They have been used maliciously to, to access or to cause DOS attack on the targeted machine. Okay, so when you look at the last item here, I said affected multiple machines or networks. So by this, you see that it shows clearly the difference between the DOS and the DDoS. Okay, so the DOS and the DDoS has this very distinguished characteristics. What are the differences between them? Of course, we have discussed them, but we need to look at them again here. Look at the picture, the diagrams here. I have one. This one is talking about the DOS attack, and this one is about the DDoS attack. If you look at the one with the DOS attack here, at the left-hand side, you will see that one system is involved here, and this system is being used to target the targeted machine here through a single network. Okay, this tells us or define what a DOS attack is. Okay, and when you look at this, the DOS attack typically uses one computer and one internet connection to flood a targeted system or resource. Okay, so that is DOS attack. So the DDoS attack uses multiple computers. Look at it here. You can see that a lot of computers are involved in this. The diagram at the right hand side. Look at this. We have the attackers on the top, the top of the tree here, or the network, and is controlling this handler. Okay. So these handlers are manipulating their slaves, which we call reflectors. And in this case, look at them, agent 1, agent 2, like that. We have different agents which are responding to the command. So the command and control center is being created. And this command and control center, they send command, receive commands from the attackers, send it, to the reflectors. And the reflectors, on their own, pass what we call attack traffic to the victim on the network. That is the victim host, okay, the targeted machine on the network. And you can see it here. Look at the attack traffic coming to the targeted machine. Okay, so that makes it difficult to easily defend against this DDoS attack. Okay, what are the goals of attackers? What does the attacker have in mind? What does the attacker want to achieve with DDoS or DDoS, attacks? In fact, to some extent, we say that no direct benefit for attackers. You'll be wondering that what do you mean by no direct benefit? How? You see, some attackers, they are, satisfied by seeing a system or making sure that a particular system that they have targeted, is the service of, is being denied. That is, the legitimate users are being denied access. Once they have done that, they are happy. Look at that. Some of them are happy, so they said, oh, I've been able to cause a DOS attack on this system, and so that is all. That is the benefit they want. Okay, when they are satisfied that okay, this system is down, so the legitimate user cannot use it, even if there is nothing coming to them as benefit, okay, as a direct benefit. So in some cases, it happens like that, okay, in DOS or DDoS attack. Also, sometimes there may be huge benefits, involved. For example, if the attack resource, that is the targeted machine, belongs to business competitors, sometimes one organization might be competing with another organization, and the organization A is now trying to what? To cause denial of service for some of the systems or a particular system or server of organization B. In this case, there will be huge benefit, because the competitor system is down. This system, for example, let's look at banking environment. Okay, if Bank A and Bank B are competing, and Bank A is able to launch a DDoS or DOS attack on the server of Bank B will not be able to attend to customers, and so the customers might move to Bank A to open their accounts there. These are examples of a benefit that can come through this DOS or DDoS attack. Okay, so each benefit may be involved sometimes. Then sometimes attackers may have the interest of taking the system offline so that they can carry out other attacks. For example, in a situation whereby there is a kind of session hijacking, you want to hijack a particular user's session, you can first of all take down that user and then launch other attacks at the back, and then hijack the session from the user. Okay, so the benefit you gain from here is that you have been able to compromise the session of the legitimate user. So these are some of the benefits that can come, to attackers when you talk about the DOS or the DDoS. What are the types of DOS or DDoS? We'll first look at the TCP sync flood attack. Remember, we said that DDoS attack or DOS attack involve flooding the targeted systems. So the TCP sync flood attack, in this kind of attack, attackers exploit the use of the buffer space during a TCP session initialization handshake. When you want to handshake in a network, you send a kind of communication to the intended machine, and once the intended machine is able to reply you, and you also reply you send the acknowledgement to the machine, then a handshake has been established on the network. But in this kind of sync flood attack, the attacker send a connection request to the targeted machine, and the targeted machine tries to reply this request from the attacker. And once the reply gets to the attacker did not acknowledge this reply. The attacker did not respond, when the targeted system replies to those requests. And so you know that if it happens like that, the targeted system will continue to send a reply to the attackers, and in this case, it will cause a lot of traffic, information, a congestion taking place in this kind of situation, and this can lead to what we call the DDoS, or DOS attack. Also causes the target system to time out. This kind of activities or the kind of scenario can cause the target system to time out, because you are sending the reply back to the attacker, and the attacker is not replying. So at some point, the legitimate system, the targeted system, time out. In fact, in some cases, the targeted system will crash, okay, or becomes unable or usable when the connection queue fills up. Sometimes connection queue fills up, the connection is just too much, and then it fills up based on your configuration or the configuration you have set on the network. Or sometimes the open port gets saturated, okay, with requests, okay, and once they are saturated, definitely there will be none available for legitimate users to use. So this kind of attack causes what we call the DDoS, or DOS attack, on the targeted machine, because it floods the targeted machine with requests. Okay. The second one is a teardrop attack, and the teardrop attack causes the length and the fragmentation offset feed in a sequential IP packet to overlap one another. You know that we have IP header format, and you can look at this example here for 32-bit. So you look at the length and the fragmentation offset. When they overlap, there will definitely be an error in the checksum. Okay, there will be error. The checksum will not, give you correct information. And once that is not correct, then the system will be confused. The system will be confused and it will crash sometimes. Because when this happens, the system will try to rebuild the packet, okay? But as it is trying to rebuild it, it will continue to fail because it cannot rebuild it. Why? Because of the overlap that has taken place in the fragmentation offset. And so in this case, the system get overwhelmed and then become confused and crashes. The third one we're going to look at is the ICMP flood attack. Okay, and what happens in ICMP attack is that attacker tries to leverage on the misconfigured network devices by sending spoofed packet. Okay, and the way you can understand this is, let's look at this way. We have a router, and this router was misconfigured. Okay, so attackers can, try to leverage on this misconfigured router to get, gain illegitimate access to the target machine. Let's look at the scenario here. Look at it down here. For example, if the intended victim's address is 10.0.0.10, okay, and the attacker would spoof an ICMP echo request from 10.0.0.10 to the broadcast address, which is this. And once that is done, maybe for example, I try to ping, send a kind of ICMP ping or echo request to from 10.0.0.10 to this broadcast address. Definitely, this request will go to all the IPs in the range. And once the request go to all the IP in the range, okay, they will respond back. And once the response comes back, it will go directly to the what? To the victim. Look at it here. Okay. So the attacker is trying to send this ICMP, echo request to these machines, all the IPs in the range. They got it, and then they respond back. The responses are now going to what? The victims. So definitely this will overwhelm the victim. Okay, so it is a kind of attack that we call smurf attack or ping of death attack. So it's an example of a DDoS attack, because you can see that there will be a lot of traffic coming from these systems in this IP range to the what? The victim system. Okay, so that is a good example of ICMP flood attack. Okay, so the last one that we'll consider is buffer overflow attack, which involves sending more traffic to a network address than the programmers have built that system to handle. When you say that something exceeds its bound, this is a bound that has been created and it exceeded it, then it will definitely cause overflow. So sometimes attacker tries to leverage on this buffer overflow attack. Also, sometimes buffer overflow attack might involve exploiting bug specific to certain applications. Let's say, for example, you develop an application and I was able to find a bug in that application. Okay, so attackers can also exploit this bug specific application, that is specific to that your application. Okay, this can also lead to something like buffer overflow attack. or that attacker exploits vulnerabilities that causes the target system or service to crash. Maybe there is a particular vulnerabilities in your application that the attacker tries to explore. And this vulnerability will make your system to crash. Okay. For example, I was able to gain access to your application and I deleted all the the files on the server. So this kind of thing exploit the vulnerabilities in your system. So we can also categorize this attack also as a kind of DDoS attack. Then what are the preventive mechanisms? What are the preventive mechanisms against these some of these attacks? But we'll consider also specific preventive mechanisms against the some of the DDoS or DOS attack that we have mentioned. So first of all, we look at some tips on these mechanisms. They are preventive mechanisms. Okay. Let's first look at the countermeasures against the TCP sync flood attack. Okay. For example, you can place your server behind a firewall and configure it to stop inbound sync packets. So any packet coming from sync, any sync packet is being blocked by this firewall. You can also increase the size of connection queue. We said that once the sync flood occurs, it may cause the queue, the connection queue, to be filled up. So you can increase the size of the connection queue, or you can also decrease the timeout on open connection. So these are different ways by which you can guide against this sync flood attack. Then the countermeasures against teardrop attack. Maybe disable the SMBs version 2, and depending on your system, and then you can also block ports 139 and 445. This is a way which you can also prevent against this teardrop attack. Okay. Also, you can have this countermeasure against ICMP flood attack, like you disable IP directed broadcast at the router. So if you work on the router configuration, you configure it perfectly, you disable it from IP directed broadcast, then you are saving yourself from the ICMP flood attack. Or you can also configure the end systems to keep them from responding to ICMP packet. Okay, once the end system, the host, is not responding to ICMP packet, then there won't be these congestions on the network coming from the host systems on the network. So definitely the targeted system will be saved in this case. Okay, you can use a firewall that will check fragmented IP. Okay, for maximum size. Once the maximum size exceed this one, the size exceed this one, then you want to drop this kind of thing. So this is a way by which you can also prevent this kind of attack. Now let's talk about firewall. Okay, three things are very common in network security. You talk about firewall, you talk about intrusion detection, you talk about intrusion prevention. Okay, so there is need for us as students of ethical hacking to know, the differences between these components, network security components. The first one we look at is the firewall. And firewall is a device, okay, that establishes a barrier between a trusted network and untrusted external network, like your internet. Let's say, for example, now you have a local area network, and this local area network, maybe your campus area network or local area network in your school, and then or in your faculty, and you want to make this local area network to connect to a wide area network, that is to connect to the internet, then you need to put in place a firewall. Okay? In fact, the first line of your defense against attack coming from external network, which in this case we're considering the internet, should be that you put in place your firewall. And firewall is nothing but a device that you have, you define a set of rules on it, okay, that will take care of, the security on the network. So firewall monitors incoming and outgoing network traffic and decide whether to allow or block specific traffic based on the defined set of security rules. That is, the rules have been, set up on the firewall. The firewall is now making use of these rules now to decide whether to block, okay, or to allow specific traffic, okay, coming from where? The external network, and even from the internal network, which means to and fro. So the firewall can prevent this. So firewalls lower the risk that malicious packet travels over the public internet can impact your security, the security of your private network. So it tries to lower the risk. If you configure your firewall very well, it will lower the risk of this attack coming from the public network, which in this case we are talking about the internet. Okay. Uh, firewall that we're talking about, it can be software, it can be hardware, it can be both. Okay, and when we talk about both, it means we're talking about the firmware. Okay, I'm very sure you know what the firmware is. Okay, so we're talking about that. So firewall can be any of this. Okay, and the major goal of firewall is that we have set of rules configured on the device, which are being used to block or allow specific traffic. Okay. So firewalls are incorporated into wide varieties of network devices these days, and the purpose is to filter traffic, as we have said. And if you look at it here, this is a good example of a scenario. Okay, you have your internet, which is the public network. Okay, your wide area network, for example, and you have your router, okay, which connect to this wide area network, and you place a firewall behind your router, okay, so that when traffic is coming from here, this firewall is trying to look at, determine whether this traffic should go to your local area network or should not go to your local area network. And so the firewall in this case tries to filter the traffic. Firewall can be categorized in different ways. For example, you can categorize firewalls as network firewalls or host-based firewalls. Okay. Network firewalls, they try to filter traffic between two or more networks. Okay. Like in this case, this one tries to filter traffic between this wide area network and this local area network. Look at this one. Also, wide area network and local area network. But the host-based firewall runs on the host computers and control the network traffic, okay, in and out of those machines. That is, it is running on the host, the firewall running on the host. Sometimes, your host, your computer has a firewall, on it. So if you disable it, the computer will tell you you are exposing the system to the risk, okay. So that is an example of a host-based firewall. So you can have a network-based firewall as well, that monitors traffic between two networks. So firewall rely on source, destination IP, addresses, and also ports. Okay, which means that it is limited to some extent. Okay, but that is your first line of defense on the network. What are the limitations of firewall? One, firewall cannot enforce your password policy or prevent misuse of password. Okay, because it doesn't look at this kind of activities, so it is not able to prevent all this kind of attack. Okay, so if you set up a password policy and the password is not okay, is weak, is this, firewall will definitely not protect you against this. Don't expect firewall to protect you against this one. Firewalls are ineffective against non-technical security risk. What do you mean by non-technical security risk? A good example is that of social engineering, attacks. Like for example, you visited a website. Once you have gained access to your public network, what do? You are now connected to the internet, and so you visited a website, and now you want to go to a particular web address. Meanwhile, this web address is a phishing link, okay, that takes you to a malicious page. Firewall will not prevent you against this kind of attack, okay? So this is one of the limitations of firewall. Firewall cannot stop internal users from accessing websites with malicious code because it doesn't deal with that. Okay, so it cannot stop you. So firewall cannot protect you from poor decision. If you decided, to allow some IP that some of them are even, malicious, but you don't know, and then you misconfigure your firewall, it cannot protect you. Okay, so from poor decision, sometimes you visited a website and then you made a kind of decision that affected, your system or get you compromised. For example, like in the case of malware, you visited a website and it has adware. You know what I mean by adware? ADWARE. That's advertisement, malware, whereby you have different pop-up coming on that website. And these kind of things are malware that you get, downloaded. You download them and then you get, infected by virus or by it could be by Trojan or anything. So this malware, the firewall cannot protect you against this kind of attack. Okay, firewall cannot also protect you if your security policy is very weak. It cannot protect you against this. So let's go to IDS versus IPS. Now we have looked at firewall. Okay. The next thing we'll look at now is the IDS and the IPS. The IDS simply means intrusion detection system, and is a passive device which watches packets of data traversing the network. You can see now that we talk about host-based firewall, we talk about network-based firewall. We say that network-based firewall try to protect us from, within two networks. But this kind of thing doesn't look at the packet, doesn't analyze your packet, the packet that is being, sent on the network. It doesn't analyze it, doesn't go deeper into it. You just look at it as a service. This packet, where is the IP address that is coming from? What's the kind of size is that? Which port is it coming to from? Where is it going? These kind of things are what the firewalls will look at. But the firewall will not go deep into that packet and analyze that packet. Okay? So this is the reason why we now need another layer of security to be put in place on our network. And that is the purpose that the IDS and IPS are now, they are trying to serve. So we have the first line of defense. If you remember, as we have said previously, that your firewall should be placed at the first line of defense. So the second line of defense can be your IDS, which is the intrusion detection. Okay, so anything that is going on within the network, I want to detect if there is any intrusion. Okay, so you can use your IDS or IPS for that. So you know the difference between the IDS and IPS. Very, they are closely related. Okay, IDS can be based on misuse versus anomaly detection. It can be network-based IDS. It can be host-based IDS. It can be passive. It can be reactive. And when we talk about the misuse IDS, we're talking about an IDS that makes use of existing signatures of attack. Okay, which in this case we have signatures of attacks that we already know, and we want to learn these signatures of attack. So you deploy a model that learns this signature of attack, and this model becomes, is being built to become what we call your IDS. To categorize or to predict any incoming attack as whether it is what? It is malicious or not malicious. But in the case of anomaly detection, you don't have signature of abnormal attack. You don't have signature of the attacks, but you have signature of you have normal activities. So you train your network to recognize these normal activities, okay? And then you say that any activities that is coming that doesn't belong to these normal activities, they are being categorized as intrusion. That is what is going on or what is happening in anomaly detection. Each of these has pros and cons, so we will not go deep into that today. The network-based IDS are put on a network to monitor, the traffic and the packets, going on the network, just like the way we define the firewalls, network firewalls. But in this case, we are talking about the network-based IDS, which analyzes the packet itself. Okay. So the host base, as the name implies, try to analyze the communication, the host. Okay. We have the passive versus reactive. In fact, the IDS itself is called the passive device. Okay. While the reactive IDS is often called intrusion prevention system. Why do we call it reactive? Because it detects intrusion and then it prevents this intrusion. But in the case of IDS detect intrusion and give alarm, about this intrusion. Okay, it gives alarm. So if you are the administrator, it gives you an alarm that there have been this kind of intrusion on the network. But for the intrusion prevention, it prevents it. It prevents that intrusion from affecting your network. So this table here gives us the differences between these three terms: the firewalls, the IDS, and the IPS. And you can see the organization here where you can actually place them. Although the IPS and the IDS can be placed, whether at inline mode, okay, you can place them at inline. You can even place them at layer 2 of your OSI layer. So we look at the differences according to the sources from the IP with ease. So we have these parameters for classification. We have the abbreviation, we have the philosophy, the principle of working, configuration mode, placement, traffic patterns. We have the placement with respect to each other. And we have the actions on unauthorized traffic detection, and we have the related terminologies that relate to each of these, you know, device. Now, let's look at the first one, the abbreviation. The abbreviation for IPS is intrusion prevention system, and for IDS is intrusion detection system. So we have this one is not an abbreviation, okay? So firewall is a network security device that filters incoming or outgoing network traffic based on predefined rules, as we have defined it already, okay? So the IPS is a device that inspects traffic, detects it, classify it, and then takes proactive measure to stop that malicious attack from coming into the network or affecting the network. Whereas in the case of IDS, it detects it, okay, but it sends alarm, when detecting the kind of attack. Now let's look at the principle of working. Firewalls filters traffic based on IP address and port numbers. whereas the intrusion prevention inspect real-time traffic and look for traffic patterns or signatures of attack and then prevent them on detection. Meanwhile, in the IDS, it detects real-time traffic also, look for traffic patterns, signatures on attack, and then generate alert. You can see that the major difference between the IDS and IPS is that IPS prevent this attack from affecting your network, whereas the IDS generates, the alarm or alert for those attacks. So the configuration mode, firewalls can be placed at layer 3, okay, and the IPS can be in inline mode, and the IDS can also be in inline mode. Like I said, you can put any of these two, whether in at layer 2, they can also work at layer 3 as well. Okay, so that is what the function they can perform. Now, traffic patterns, the firewall did not analyze, it doesn't analyze traffic patterns. But for the IPS and IDS, they can analyze the traffic pattern. Now, placement with respect to each other. For the firewalls, you have to place firewalls at the first line of defense. I said it. The first line of your defense will be the firewall. Now, the IPS will be placed after the firewall. Likewise, the IDS will be placed after the firewall. That means they are being placed at the second line of defense. Okay. Now, actions on unauthorized traffic detection. The firewalls also block the traffic once it detects that this particular traffic does not conform to the rules that they have configured it to look at. Also, the IPS prevent the traffic on detection of anomaly. Also, but the IDS send alert or alarm on detection of anomalies. So some of the related terms are here. Like for the firewalls, we talk about stateful packet filtering. We talk about permit or block traffic, by port or protocols. These are some of the things we talk about when we look at firewall. But for the IPS or IDS, for IPS, we talk about anomaly-based detection, which I've also explained a little bit. Signature-based detection, which I've also explained a little bit about misuse detection. Okay. We also have another thing called zero-day attack. So what do you mean by zero-day attack? Zero-day attacks are attacks that their signatures is not known. You don't know their signature. You have not come across their signatures in the past. They are new attacks, okay? And so they are coming in, as a new attack, okay? That's why we call them zero-day attack, okay? So their signature is not recorded, is not known before, okay? It's not part of the signature of attack that we are used to. That's why we call them zero-day attack. So the IPS can be developed to detect this zero-day attack. Likewise, the IDS. Okay. So the IPS perform what we talk about blocking the attack. But in the case of IDS, we talk about monitoring and then generating alarm. Okay, so that is all about firewall, IPS, and what? And the IDS. Okay, so I believe now you can distinguish between firewall, the IDS, and the IPS. Okay, so let's move to honeypot. Honeypot. Honeypot is also a network attached system that we use to we set it up as a decoy in order to lure the cyber attackers. That is, the purpose of the honeypot is to detect, deflect, or study hacking attempts. So, for example, let me give you an example of honeypot on social network. Let me use social network as an example. You have different accounts on social media, maybe your Facebook or your Twitter. Twitter can decide to set up a kind of account on Twitter, and this account will be there monitoring the activities that is going on the Twitter. This kind of attack, this kind of account in this case is referred to as honeypot account, because the purpose is to see who are those users that want to contact this account. If you try to contact them, why do you need to contact them? The legitimate user doesn't have a relationship with them. You don't know this account. Why are you linking to them? So it is believed that any account that is linked to this account or try to establish a connection with this account are regarded as attackers, or they are regarded as illegitimate account trying to access these users. That is the account that was created to look at the activities of the net. So they are functioning. This account is functioning as a decoy in order to lure the attackers. So the attackers is trying to connect to them or trying to connect to this account. Okay, so this is a kind of honeypot that I'm talking about here. So honeypot can be developed or can be deployed, on the network, in different ways. Okay. So the purpose of honeypot, one, gather information and notify defenders. If a particular person try to access or try to make a friendship connection with this account that we're talking about, you find out that it can send, this account can be configured such a way that it send alert or send a notification or send a particular information to Twitter. So this is an example of honeypot here. Then honeypot can represent itself as a potential target for attackers. So for attackers, honeypot can be a potential target. So you just access it, and then it allows you to access it, and then it collects information about these attackers. What is the purpose? Okay, what is the purpose? Useful to cybersecurity researchers who want to learn more about the tools and techniques that attackers use. Because I may want to know more about what kind of activities does malicious account, and get involved on the network. So I can try to deploy a honeypot in order to get information about these kind of activities. Honeypot is also an important tool. It's an important tool for large organizations to take an active defense against attackers. Okay, so it's a way by which you also try to prevent or take a defensive mechanism against attackers. What are the types of honeypot? Honeypot can be defined. You can be categorized based on the design and deployment mode. Okay, and two types exist. We have research honeypot. We can also have production honeypot. Research honeypot tries to perform, close analysis of hackers' activities. Okay, because you want to use this for research, so you are trying to perform analysis of attackers' activities. I want to know more about what attackers engage in, okay, in order to carry out a particular attack. So you can deploy a honeypot to look at this area. Aim to discover how attackers develop and progress in order to learn how to better protect against them. So you can deploy honeypot also to serve this purpose. Okay. The second category of honeypot is called the production honeypot. Okay. And this honeypot are being deployed inside the production network alongside the production server. So their purpose is they deploy the production server and they deploy the honeypot along with it. So the honeypot will be serving its own purpose of luring or decoying, that is trying to attract the attackers attention, That is one of the purposes that they set up this production honeypot. Then play the role of the coil. I've said that uh, a part of the production network. Okay, now it can assist even the IDS in this case. So don't mistake the IDS and the honeypot. In fact, the honeypot can collect information for IDS. Okay, so if you deploy an IDS or IPS, you can have honeypot that is collecting information and is sending this information to what? To the IDS or IPS. Okay, so the honeypot is also designed to appear as if it's real. Okay, it appears as if it's real, and then the attackers try to interact with it, and then it collects information about these activities going on or taking place. The attackers engaging, and then tries to send this information to the organization owner. Okay, and in some cases, the honeypot can occupy or attract and occupy attackers. That is, you can take time. You can develop a kind of honeypot that engages attackers, in some activities for the purpose of capturing or getting detailed information about the activities of attackers. So by this, we have looked at the two types of honeypot. We look at the research honeypot. We also look at the production honeypot, and we talk about the differences between them. Okay. What are the advantages and disadvantages of honeypot? Advantages are: one, honeypot can help us to collect real data. If you deploy, like, say, for example, the account that Twitter deploy now can collect real data from Twitter users. And then honeypot can help us to reduce false positive, because it is believed that why does legitimate users need to contact this honeypot honeypot device or honeypot system that is deployed. So the attackers have no reason to contact them. So it is believed that if you contact honeypot, then we know that you are likely to be an attacker. So we are now this kind of thing is now reducing the false positive. Okay, so I know you understand what false positive is, right? Okay, thank you. Okay, let's look at the disadvantages. Okay, one of the disadvantages is that once the honeypot is not able to collect information, that is, if the honeypot is not being contacted by the attacker, what is the data that the honeypot will work on? No data. Okay, so that is one of the disadvantages. It is when the attacker contacts the honeypot that the honeypot will have data to work with. And once the attacker does not contact the honeypot will not be able to have data to work with. In some cases, honeypots are also easy to detect by experienced hackers. Through their behavior, experienced hackers sometimes they can detect honeypots that this is an honeypot. This is a honeypot, and so I have to avoid interacting with this kind of thing. Okay, so it is possible for experienced attackers to detect easily that this is honeypot. And sometimes honeypot can also there may be high cost of maintenance. That is the high cost of maintaining honeypot is also one of the disadvantages. So penetration testing. Penetration testing is simply the practice of testing a computer system, okay, to find security vulnerabilities. You want to test a network, you want to test a computer system, you want to test a web application, you want to look for loopholes, you want to look for vulnerabilities. Are you getting it now? Then you are doing penetration testing. Okay. And the purpose of doing this penetration testing is that you want to try to find out, is there any vulnerability or loopholes that the attackers might want to exploit, in your system. Okay, that's why you're doing the penetration testing. Okay, so penetration testing can be automated. You can automate it with software. You can also perform it manually. Okay, so in some cases when you automate it, it makes your work easier to quickly perform the penetration test. Then penetration testing involves identifying possible entries, like I've said, and then you report them. Okay, once you identify possible entries, you do what? You report them. Okay, that's why we call it pen testing, penetration testing, or we call it ethical hacking. Okay, ethical hacking, and that's the purpose why you are studying this. Okay, my student, the ethical hacking student. Okay, we expect that once you find a loophole in a system or application or a network, you are going to report it, to the owner. Okay, or you take an action to prevent such by involving the organization also about this kind of vulnerability that you have found out on their system. Okay, so that's why you are called ethical hackers. Okay, also the penetration testing also tests organization ability to identify or respond to security incidents. In fact, it is very important that organization must engage in pen test. Okay, because it's one way. It is one way to know if this organization actually considers security policy or complies with some security requirement. Okay, and it's good for the organization. Look at this scenario: an organization is being shutted down just because of a particular entry point or vulnerability that attackers find, on their system or network or even web application. So it's very disgusting. Okay, so that is why you will need to perform what we call penetration testing. Penetration testing, how often? Of course, how often? When an organization adds new network infrastructure or application, you should know that you need to test that new infrastructure. Okay, you perform a pen test on it. Then make significant upgrade or modification to its application. If there is an upgrade or modification to applications, the website has been changed, a new web application has been developed, a new portal is now developed for students. This is not, you need to test it. You need to perform pen test on them. Okay, to see if there are loopholes that attackers can, look at. Then it establishes offices in new location. For example, if an organization establishes offices in new location, then you should know that you have to perform pen test on that, new location to see if there is any vulnerability. Okay, and sometimes when you apply security, organization apply security patches. Okay, then you can test that security patch to see if it satisfy the security requirement. Okay. Sometimes also modifies end user policy. If you modify user policy and it affects your application or your network, then you need to test for vulnerability on that network. Okay, that is the ways by which you can perform the pen test. Penetration testing, some strategies. Okay, this is we try to look at some strategies that are being used by security professionals. Okay, one of these strategies is what we call targeted testing, and targeted testing tries to is being performed by the team, organization team, security team, and even also performed together with pen testers. Okay, so they perform this thing together in order to test a particular, vulnerability on that organization. So this is one way by which pen test can be carried out. Another one is external testing, and this involves testing organization external resources. Okay, maybe there is an external resources like email server, like domain name server. You want to test them if they are vulnerable. Okay, these are organization resources that reside, external infrastructure. So you can test them for vulnerabilities. Okay, so this is the example of what we call external pen testing. Then we have also what we call internal testing. And internal testing mimic insider attack. You try to create a kind of attack, okay, by who? By authorized users, okay. You create a kind of, you mimic attack, you simulate attack on the internal, network or even applications in order to test this internal system or application or network for vulnerability. That's one way you can also perform pen testing. Then we have what we call the blind testing. Okay, and when you perform blind testing, you give limited information to the tester to work with. Okay, this is just the information, and I'm giving it to you as the general manager of your organization. Nobody knows about this testing. Get this little information, and please perform pen test on this, network based on this little information. This is what we call the blind testing. Then we have double blind testing, whereby two or more people about in that organization know about this testing. In fact, they can go beyond that. Okay, these people. So this is called double blind. Okay, that is more than one person may be aware about this kind of pen testing. We also have black box testing. The black box testing is like the blind testing. But in the black box testing, unlike the blind testing, you are not giving any information to the tester. The tester knows nothing about the network, he knows nothing about the web application, and then you are saying, please go and perform testing on this network. Oh, please, what can you give me characteristics of this network? Can you give me some information? No, the informations are not available. So in that case, you are performing a black box testing. The white box testing, in this case, it involves provision of information about the targeted network or system or web application. More information are provided about this targeted network or system. So these are an example of what we call white box testing. So it's a strategy that you can also use to test your network. Penetration testing some tools. Okay, as ethical hackers, a student, you need to know that some tools are also available for you to use to perform your ethical hacking or penetration testing. Some of these tools are listed here. One of them is the Metasploit project, which was owned by Rapid7, and I want you to Google it and try to see what you can do with them. Penetration testing tool is a penetration testing tool that can be used on server, online-based applications, and networks. Okay, so its purpose is to uncover security issues and verify vulnerability. So this kind of tool is good for that purpose. We also have the Nmap, which is a short for network mapper, and it performs what we call a port scanning. Okay, so it's a port scanner, and it scans your network or systems in order to look for vulnerabilities and the link that are linked to what? The open port. We want to find out the vulnerabilities linked to the port that you have opened on your network. So if you want to do that, you want to perform a scan, a port scanning to look for vulnerabilities. Oh, Nmap is good for that. Okay, so you can make use of Nmap. Also, we have another tool called Wireshark. Wireshark is a tool that you can use for profiling network traffic and for analyzing network packet. So you can use the Wireshark to perform this kind of pen test. It's a good tool also. It analyzes your packet. Okay. In fact, it look at the smaller details of the network activities that is taking place on your network and tries to analyze them. So Wireshark is good for that. Then we have another tool called John the Ripper, which incorporate different password crackers. Maybe you want to look at weak password on a particular web application, or you want to test some different types of password hashes. Okay, so you can make use of John the Ripper to perform this kind of pen testing. These links for you for further reading. You have different links here, which I believe you can access them and try to read more on network attacks, network security, pen test, and a host of other things you can find in this link. Thank you very much for listening, and I want to believe that you enjoy this class. So thank you very much, and I hope to see you next time for more discussion.